Number one story in the world, banned by the NBA.
In 2010, a shoe company that nobody had ever heard of launched a basketball shoe with a device in the forefoot that made you jump up to 3.5 inches higher. The NBA banned it, but instead of panicking, that brand turned that ban into the foundation for their entire brand.
We did not have an athlete, and we turned something into what might have possibly been perceived by others as a negative into this incredible positive.
That's NJ Falk. She's managing partner of APL, or Athletic Propulsion Labs. They've made Oprah's favorite things list 4 times. They sit at the intersection of luxury and performance. And today, NJ is going to break down the 6 or 7 story threads that APL uses across every product launch, every campaign, every piece of content. If you're trying to figure out how to build a real brand story for your e-commerce brand and not just run ads to a product page, then this is the episode. I'm John Coyle. I've helped walk over a dozen brands from 7 to 8 to 9 figures in the last 5 years, and this is the checkout. Let's get into it. So you're the managing partner at APL. I think a lot of people have heard your guys' story, but if you want to maybe just tell me the background, the genesis of Athletic Propulsion Labs.
So our origin story is really thought-provoking, and it's about the brand, but it's also about storytelling. So I think it's the perfect question. Mm-hmm. So we're about performance, innovation, storytelling, and building communities, and that's at the heart of our brand. So we started with our Concept One basketball shoe, and really it was about Adam and Ryan Goldston, who are my partners and co-founders. They played basketball and football at USC. They always wanted to jump higher, solve a problem, and we, together, we all built APL and launched the Concept One, which has the patented load and launch device in the forefoot, propels you up to 3.5 inches higher. And it became the number one story in the world, banned by the NBA, and we were off and running. And we actually used that to tell the story of the brand. And that's what's so interesting, because we tapped into banned by the NBA, stop dreaming, jump higher. And we also solved this problem. Like athletes, playground players, they've always wanted to dunk.
Yeah.
And we tapped into that and began to tell the story of the brand and the origin. So we're based in performance innovation, and that is really the foundation of our brand.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, you guys developed a shoe. How did it end up getting banned by the NBA? Like, what was the... Well, I guess maybe, first of all, why is it banned?
It's banned because of the load and launch device in the forefoot. It propels you up to 3.5 inches higher, and the NBA said it provided an undue competitive advantage.
Got it.
So then it wasn't eligible for play in the NBA.
Okay. And like, how did that happen? Did you guys have an athlete?
We didn't have an athlete. I mean, we were maybe thinking about it,
yeah,
but we did not have an athlete. And we turned something into what might have possibly been perceived by others as a negative into this incredible positive. And it was how we started storytelling. But that was...
Never waste a crisis, right?
Yeah. I love that. No, never waste a crisis. And it really... became literally a story around the world, but it also is a story about performance credibility. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's so interesting about this. And we always have that thread, and I'm going to talk about this today. There is this thread of storytelling throughout what we do. Yeah. And one of those threads is the consistency of performance credibility in all of our products, what we do, and how we design, engineer, and create things.
So I used to be my degree, my college degree that I've got is in electronic media. It's in video production, and I went to a school where we were very focused on news.
Okay.
Right? And so there's like a news program, obviously.
Was it Emerson?
It wasn't Emerson. There's like a news program at the college and stuff like that. And I remember at one point we were talking about like, how do we make our like show or news show more compelling, right? Because we're reporting campus stuff. And, we're on YouTube. We're like, how would we actually grow this? And, somebody came in and was showing us some stuff that was like, all right, here's how you tell stories better, right? And they gave us an example of like just this story that in and of itself was already very compelling. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
I can't even remember what the story was, but it was like, it had all the stuff. It had like, backstabbing, it had betrayal, it had money, like it had, and it was like, he said like, here, look how they told this story in 2 minutes in a news segment. And I say, okay, but what about like, when the like Union building is going to get a Jamba Juice? Like that's a less compelling story inherently, right? So
Right.
and the reason I set this all up is because my question to you is, I think getting banned by the NBA is a very compelling story in and of itself. So there's got to be an element to this where you guys are good at like not wasting a crisis. You're good at recognizing when you have a story and running with it.
Right.
But
We are.
But you don't always have that story, right? Like you don't always have that just dropped into your lap. So how do you create when you don't have getting banned by the NBA dropped into your lap? How do you create like still tell good stories? Does that make sense?
It makes absolute sense. So I think there's like 6 or 7 threads or stories that we tell
Okay.
all the time. But the NBA, banned by the NBA story is the foundation of the storytelling of the brand. The other thing is it's as soon as you bring it up, there's this aha moment for so many people that remember that moment, that unite them, that makes them smile, etc. So it's a wonderful thing. And so that was like performance credibility, third party endorsement, so many things all at once. And it's also something everybody remembers. But
Yeah.
going forward, I think one of the things about our brand is that we tell stories based on so many other things when we launch a product. So I would say that's about technology stories.
Okay.
So, and that comes out of the banned by the NBA. So, and you've got me thinking about all these things.
Yeah.
So, banned by the NBA is a performance credibility story, but it's also a technology story.
So can I just pause you for a second?
Yeah.
So you have these buckets, at least for APL, where you say we have performance credibility stories.
Right.
We have technology stories.
Right.
And are these the 6 or 7 threads you're talking about?
Yes.
You have like these sort of 6 or 7, I'm going to call it buckets, but you're calling them threads of like, these are all the categories of stories that we tell that all essentially mean like APL means these things, right?
Right.
And so every product has to fit into one of these stories or will fit into one of these stories.
I think
inevitably.
they're developed and it's sort of like they all fit in the buckets because we know what APL is, what it stands for. And that happens sort of organically and authentically and also through our community.
So tell me, technology story. I kind of interrupted you. So a technology.
No, that's good. I love this dialogue.
A performance credibility story is something like being banned from the NBA, or at one point, I don't know, don't mean to bring up a competitor, but Nike had a shoe that was in running that like there was a lot of controversy as to whether the shoe would be legal in like major marathons and the Olympics, right? So those are performance credibility stories where it's like this thing's so good that you're not allowed, that the pros aren't allowed to use it.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, that some credible source has banned it because it's too good, or some credible source uses it because it's so good, right? AG1 using Andrew Huberman and Peter Attia when they were more credible was a performance credibility story in a sense, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, and again, we have so many aspects to our brand, but technology is a story. A lot of times people just tell technology as specs.
Yes.
We don't talk in that language. We're really talking about a felt experience.
Yeah.
So, and I think storytelling is such a big topic right now. So we're talking about a felt experience in our product where we use sensory language to also tell the technical story. And that really appeals to the consumer. We're talking in their language while also telling the technology story. So we say words like designed, crafted, effortless. We don't say foam midsole.
Mhm.
We say more what it does, like it's lighter, it's softer, it's more responsive.
Yeah.
And then we have like one of our midsoles is called the Heavenly Ride. I mean, you already know from that. It's the Heavenly Ride.
This is for a running shoe.
Yes. That says to you comfort. It says responsiveness. It says to you so many things.
Mhm.
So those are examples of how between our incredibly gorgeous imagery that we have for everything that we do, we marry it with technology, but in a consumer tone that they can identify. It feels
Yeah.
warm.
So, like, what is your midsole technology called?
Well, we have different midsoles. So we have
Okay.
Heavenly Ride. We
So,
have
let's use
Propylium.
that example, Heavenly Ride.
Okay.
It's called Heavenly Ride.
Yes.
What would it be called if you weren't called? Like, would it be like, Eco Boost, whatever? I think I'm actually using somebody else's there. But like, would it be called? Does that make sense? So, give me an example of what, like a normal running shoe brand, or if you weren't telling a story, what somebody would call.
I think it would just be much more, technical
Right.
language, but with everything that we do, we have a story. Like we have with the Heavenly Ride in our new veil, but it's very
Yeah.
responsive. I mean, we have a story around our Propylium midsole where Adam and Ryan took a trip to Japan. They walked 13 miles in search of fluffy Japanese pancakes, and it was the inspiration for that midsole where it's fluffy, cloud-like,
Mhm.
and yummy. And when we launched it, we had an event at one of our stores where we served Japanese pancakes.
Okay.
So, I mean,
So does every product have something like that? Here's the origin story tied into it. Are you guys always using an origin story like that?
I think a lot of times we absolutely do that because there's something behind the development of every product, and it's
Mhm.
often very personal, but it's also can be very technical. And we also obsess over the design and everything that we do.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to start a video by saying, okay, I was in Japan and I was looking for pancakes, than it is by saying, when your foot hits the ground, it absorbs impact and what you want to do, right? So it's
Exactly. That's my point where it is unbelievable technology and we have all this patented technology, but we're telling a story that the consumer can relate to and they instantly recognize. Here's another example.
yeah.
Our Euphoria running shoe has a naked net upper. It's called, and we had a campaign, Run Naked.
Hmm.
And you can already feel from that it's light, it's airy. We're telling you that all instantly in just 2 words or 3 words, and you're getting the feeling of the product and the technology behind it and why it's different.
Hmm. Got it. So basically most products you launch, you always say, what is our origin story? So, because Run Naked is not necessarily an origin story, right? So I guess I'm trying to get more tactical here. Do you guys usually have an origin story for the product that you tell?
I think it varies by every product.
Okay.
And I think it's what's appropriate for whatever we're releasing. And, we tell that story and different stories based on products. But I mean, with the Euphoria, Run Naked and gives you a feeling of how light it feels, how airy it is. And it instantly happens. It registers right away.
Right. Right. And there's stories that could be told from that, right? Like you can make like funny parody skits, all kinds of stuff. Like if that's kind of the ethos of that product, right?
Right. We don't
You don't, but you
tend to
could.
do that. That's not our voice.
Yeah.
But we could, I suppose
Well,
we could do
it
that.
kind of is because you're saying Run Naked.
It is. It's, it is a little tongue in cheek
Yeah.
for sure. But it's also, in many ways, I think also a tongue in cheek technology story. And then we, of course, in the PDPs on the websites, when we're communicating in SMS or email, especially email, we break down, obviously, later on the technology, all the advantages, everything in the product, but we're engaging in storytelling.
But yeah, you don't start there.
We don't
That's deeper in the
necessarily
funnel.
start there, but it's all there, and we're definitely referencing that throughout everything.
All right, let's talk AI tools, but with email. There's a lot of AI tools out there. Every single platform is telling you, hey, we rolled out an AI tool, which is awesome, but sometimes it can mean nothing. So one of the things I love about working with Attentive is not only do they present AI tools and let you know when they're available, but for us, they walk you through them. You get to do a trial. You get to see if it's even working before you sign up. And at the end of the day, it almost feels like there's no added cost to adding these tools. That might sound crazy, but I just added AI Pro, AI Grow, AI Audiences, AI Send Time, and all these AI enhancements to my Attentive stack. And it's been incredible. Like, we use Attentive. I'm not just writing for Attentive because we use it. There's other platforms out there, but these tools are insane. Outside of time-specific launches, we're always using AI Send Time. If I'm sending an emotional email about fatherhood and some things we've been going through, or resources to help dads, or just a general update on what's going on with the brand, I want that message to get to my supporters and customers at the time that is best for them. If I select, 10 a.m. PST, then maybe that's a bad time for somebody to open an email. AI Send Time is helping me with that. So if you haven't yet, get Attentive because it's awesome. Email and SMS in just one place. And then check out their AI tools. You don't have to just jump in, get a 60-day trial or whatever trial they offer you. They'll prove out that they work. And from there, have fun.
If you want to stop guessing what your customers want and start running tests that actually increase your profit, you need to check out IntelliGems. The problem is most brands try to guess what products go together, and they try to force them into these like pre-made bundles so that they can increase their average order values. Customers don't like forced choices. This is my hypothesis, right? So if they don't want the hat, then they just won't buy the full bundle. And now you're not selling them the shoes or socks that you could have sold them. So at Royo, we used to have pre-made bundles. We called it a starter pack. It had all of our flavors. We were like, hey, this is the best way for somebody to get started. That's why it's called the starter pack. But we just stopped guessing and we said, all right, what if we test that against a custom bundle? We let them, build their own bundle. So we let the customer pick exactly what was in their bundle. It did take a little bit of dev work, but the result was well worth it. It increased our gross profit per visitor by 20%. That means every visitor we get to our site now, we make 20% more profit. That's pretty huge. So we ran this test using IntelliGems, and the reason we're using IntelliGems is because it tracks profit, not just conversion rate. So most people just want to know which one converts better. I want to know which one makes me more money. So a test that you could be running: stop forcing bundles, stop doing pre-built bundles, and build a landing page that lets your customers build their own bundle. If you're not running tests like this, then you should be, and you should be doing it with IntelliGems. So go to intelligems.io to start testing what actually moves the needle for your brand. All right, let's get back to it. One of the things I do is I have my listeners send in questions.
Okay.
There's a handful of them that have sent in questions about storytelling.
Okay, go for it. Let's see if
So
I can. I'm up
them
for the task.
I think this is a good one because tactically, I think there are a lot of brands that launch, especially when they launch online, that launch by telling some form of a founder story, right? And this person asked, we have a decent origin story, but I feel like I've told my founder story 100 times, and I don't know how to keep storytelling fresh. So now I think this happens a lot.
Wow,
you tell the
that's a great
founder
question.
story, and then you kind of move on because you're like, how many different ways am I going to make this same freaking video over and over again and keep telling this story? So then how do you keep that fresh? I think that part of the answer that you're giving here is that you're saying every time there's a new product, there's a new story, right? And
I agree
one
with
trick
that.
you could use is, what is the origin of this product, right? Why this?
Right, and a lot of times with our product, the origin of the story is a co-founder story.
Right.
But
So now we have a new founder story to tell. Yeah.
now we have a new founder story to tell. And we're not shy about telling those stories because we want people to understand the impetus for a product and what inspired the idea?
Yeah.
And I think I would say to that person who posed that question, I mean, really take a look at what inspires ideas. What is the thought behind a product? What is the newness? Why did you create it in the first place? How does this expand into everything that you're doing? We also use, case stories like a lot of our products are about going from the gym to the street to life, and we're part of your whole life. So, I mean, those are stories that you can tell. I mean,
So give me an example
we
of what
show
that looks like.
versatility in real life, and you see that in our photography, you see it in our communications, because our consumer is living a very versatile life on the move, and we tap into that with our storytelling. And what's interesting on our Webby honored social media, which is so incredible, we get so much organic community feeding into our social, raving about our products, how they're using it, and how it's part of their life, and how it moves with them throughout the day. So I think that's another storytelling bucket, as we're saying. And you can have lots of buckets. You can have the founder's story. You can have for us, the technology story. You can have for how we move through life with you story. And we say that all the time. I mean, one of the examples is we say from morning runs to workouts and everything in between, they're meaning our shoes are designed, and we did this for the Veil recently, to slip on effortlessly for your life on the go. I mean, you can feel the movement in your life. You can feel the storytelling with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's, again, like you could tie some of these together, right? If it's like, what are we trying to communicate with the Veil? We're trying to communicate that it's versatile. It can go through your whole life with you, from workout to, soccer to whatever it is that you have going on, right?
Yeah, it's a lightweight running shoe with
Right, to the
support.
coffee shop. Yeah.
Exactly. So you could be training in the morning, going to work, and then out to dinner, and it's following you throughout your day. Another thing that happens with us that's very completely organic is when you say APL. So many consumers say, I love APL. It's just an authentic part of being part of our community. And that just happens very organically out in the wild. And we like to say our consumer feels like a hero or heroine in our product, because people are approaching them saying, what are you wearing, whatever. And that feeds into social.
So, yeah. And I think that kind of what I was going to say is like, some of these can tie together, right? So that story of like the product going through with you throughout your day, there can also be an origin story there, right? So it could be an origin story of a co-founder saying, hey, look, so there's, this day where I was kind of like at work, and I went to work out afterwards, and then I was supposed to go to dinner, and I had to go home and change before dinner. And I was like, that sucked. And I was like half an hour late for dinner because I had to go home and change. And that's like a very practical, like maybe that it's not.
No, but that's also a heart of a story for us,
Yeah,
because what is
very
luxury?
relatable. Yeah.
What is luxury? Luxury is saving you time. Luxury is least resistance. And we bring that thread throughout the day with you. And all of our stories and everything we do is connected that way.
Right. And so there's 100 stories you could tell of people having versatile stuff that they can wear to work out, to, work, to, kids' activities, whatever it is. Right. But yeah, I think that's like, so if I'm going to kind of draw something out there, I think that what you actually oftentimes with your products, you define like the core, like tagline or copy that you're saying, like, what is everything we ever say about this product going to communicate, right? And then from there, if we can define that well, then like I just said, then there's 100 different stories we could tell, right? We could tell a story of a busy mom. We could tell a story of the guy who had to go home and change before he went to dinner. We had like there's hundreds of stories we could tell if we can nail like what is the. I don't want to use the same word. I don't want to use the word story. What's the core story we're trying to tell? Do you understand what I mean? So what's the core thing we're trying to communicate?
Yeah, which is why I've been breaking it down in buckets. Like,
Yeah.
we have origin stories, we have technology as a story, but not in the typical way of reeling off, highly technical terms, but we're also telling it in words that a consumer relates to, but we're also putting in all the technology into that story as well. Then we're talking about another bucket where how our product travels through life with you on a day-to-day basis, and so many of our products are like that. So, and that's the thread through all of this. I mean, we say we sit at the intersection of luxury and performance, and if you think about that, as we're talking about all these things, we're sitting at that intersection, but we're also backing up our performance credibility. We're also talking about luxury, how we craft things, how we design things, how we engineer things, how it moves through life with you, and there's that thread in every story. So, and each product and each innovative product that we introduce is another thread in the story.
Yeah. I want to know some of your other threads. I really appreciate you writing them, bringing them.
I know,
So what
it
are
was
some of
like
your, what are some of your other story threads? Here?
Okay, here we go. I think we touched on this a little bit, but social proof, editorial validation. I mean, APL's been honored a lot. We made Oprah's favorite things list 4 times. Men's and women's health awards. The Veil was just chosen as the best new running shoe. We introduced it like 2 weeks ago by Oprah Daily and won their Best New Running Shoe award. So I think endorsements and validations and telling stories around that. We use short, punchy quotes. We integrate that naturally into the flow of our communications, and we're constantly winning accolades. So it's another bucket and part of our brand because outsiders and authoritative resources are giving us performance credibility. Again,
Yeah.
banned by the NBA is one thing. Some of the awards are others.
Right. Yeah.
So, like
It's
Oprah
sort
Daily,
sort of a variation of the performance credibility stories.
it is absolutely.
Yeah.
And Oprah Daily just named us the best new running shoe. And then I'm going to read the quote from Esquire. The Veil was designed for performance, but these days they passed as a lifestyle shoe. So that links back to the other story about use case,
Right.
and us going gym street life.
Right.
So again, here we are. We're taking the needle with the thread, and you can see it's threading through all these buckets, and there's a consistency there.
And I think that like the previous question that the person asked was like, I don't know, I feel like I'm getting sick of telling the same story, right? Or
I can understand that.
Or everybody has heard it. And what you're saying is like, we'll tell it in different ways, right?
Right.
And so it's like, tell it with social proof. Tell it with like use cases. Tell it with an origin story. Tell the same thing. How can you communicate the same core thing in a bunch of different ways? And I will say one more thing about, somebody being like sick of saying the same thing over and over. You guys, like, as you mentioned, have an award-winning Instagram account, right? How many years ago did you get banned by the NBA?
Are you ready?
Yeah.
It's like 15 years ago.
Okay, so 15 years ago, you guys got banned by the NBA.
Right.
I scrolled your Instagram before this.
Okay.
About 6 posts down, it says APL, still banned by the NBA.
That's right.
So keep telling it is the point. I don't care if you're sick of telling it. If it's a great story, keep telling it.
Right. And
Yeah.
also remember, and this is a good point, top of funnel, new people may not know that story.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful story. It's an origin story. It's part of the brand. It is performance credibility. And I'm sure that brand or whatever has similarities in whatever category they're in. And also we just, had an anniversary and celebrated 15 years. Also, our Tech Loom Pro is our iconic legacy shoe that really launched our running movement. It's the shoe that started the movement, and we introduced it like 4 years after our Concept One and Concept basketball shoes. So we celebrated that 10th anniversary. That's not an old story. That's it's talking about legacy and how we built the brand and how a product that's still out still resonates with the consumer. And it should be celebrated. I mean, that's another bucket. I didn't even think of it till right now.
Yeah.
Celebration,
Yeah.
recognition,
Milestones. Yeah.
milestones. I mean, we all love celebrating good things in life.
Yeah.
And it's so authentic.
I have another question from a listener that I'm changing his words a little bit, his or her. I don't actually know. And to credit their original words, what they said was, when you develop product, do you think about how you will market it, or do you develop the product and then come up with the marketing? I'm going to change that, and I'm going to say, when you're launching a new product, do you find a story and develop a product around it? Or do you develop a product and then develop the story, or do they kind of come together? Or do they kind let me say that again. Or do they kind of come together at the same time?
I don't know. I'm going to just speak sort of for myself, but also I think it comes together, and it's a very thoughtful, detailed process as we craft a new product and develop it. And again, it goes back to some products are inspired by an incredible trip, doing certain things, objectives and goals. I want to jump higher. Other products are, we walked 13 miles and the upper of the zip line, Adam and Ryan went zip lining with the Crown Prince in Dubai. So that was the inspiration for the upper of the zip line with our patented incredible tech loom knit that's patented, that's so comfortable, but then the lateral cords around it, and it's a real story, and inspiration can come from anywhere.
Yeah, I think product development's a really interesting topic that I don't bring up on the show a lot, because mostly we talk about marketing, which is like product is usually settled by the time we're doing marketing, right? Or at least when by the time the marketers get their hands on it,
right?
They don't get to have much say. The product's done, right?
Right.
So I think that there's a number of ways to develop products that I have noticed successful people doing. Some people are mercenaries, where they just see where there's an opportunity and they develop a product for that opportunity. And they might not necessarily themselves as founders have very much passion for it. Nobody in their org might have much passion for it, but it's the type of product that fits under their brand, and they see that there's white space there. If that's how you develop product, then you're going to have to figure out what the story is after. You know what I mean? Like don't just be like, hey, I made this product because it seemed like people would buy it. Like, that's not a good story. So, I think if that's how you're developing products, then you're probably the reason there's white space is probably because why isn't anybody filling it? Why is it hard, right? Like, that's probably the genesis of your story there. Why is it hard? I mean, I was just thinking this before, like, if you walk around all day at like Disneyland, like, your feet hurt. That just is what it is, right? Or your lower back hurts or whatever. Why? Could you make a shoe that made it so that you didn't, right? Like, if so, then you have your story,
you can
right?
wear one of our shoes and walk around all day and your feet won't hurt.
So there you go, right? So that it's like, then there's people who develop products from that, right? Like, they do a thing, or they want to do a thing or whatever, and they're like, well, what could we, could we make a shoe that does that, or could we make a product that does that? In which case, you already have your story then. So I think that really the answer to this question comes down to how you develop products.
But we are very clear about what our white space is. I don't know if that person or that brand or whatever is clear about their white space.
Yeah.
Our white space is that we are sitting at the top or the pinnacle of luxury performance, and everything that we do should embody that.
Right.
So that's part of the storytelling. So the product, whatever we're developing, sits within that white space.
Right.
So I'm not sure how they're doing that, and I'm not going to give away right now all of our trade secrets.
What your product development process is. I
Yeah.
understand that. But I think that's my answer to them. It's like, do you develop a product for marketing, or do you develop, marketing around a product? It really comes down to how you develop product. Like, if you develop a product to solve a pain that you have, then that's probably your starting point as a story. And then if that story doesn't work, then maybe a lot of people don't have that pain, and then you're probably just going to have to develop marketing.
Let's go back to the concept one.
Yeah.
How many
people want to dunk?
Basketball players, playground players, athletes want to dunk?
A lot, yeah.
This was something that was radical.
Yeah.
And we created a product that we were passionate about, that we knew, and it was tested, worked, and we solved a problem. But we also did something where we launched ourselves and wanted to fulfill this dream.
Yeah. So I think
stop dreaming, jump higher.
Yeah. There you go. There's your tag.
It is one of the tags. And we own that.
I think that if I'm going to kind of try and speak more clearly about what I'm trying to say to that question, it's like, sometimes people develop a product for themselves, right? They're like, this is what I wish existed. And so then they develop that product. And if you do that, you have the story. Like, that is the story, is why did you wish that existed? What happened?
Well, that's kind of true about the concept
exactly.
one. So yes.
Yeah, so that's the concept one. Now, in the case of the concept one, you also happen to know that like thousands of other people, hundreds of thousands of other people also have, like, they would also like to dunk. Some people may have developed a product for themselves that they wanted that just like not a lot of other people care that much about. In which case, then yeah, you're going to have to figure out how to market that product after the fact because you've developed it. But your starting story is just why you did it. If you develop a product because you just see white space, then I think your marketing's done. Like, there's got to be a reason you're seeing white space. Like, if you're just a mercenary, not a missionary on this product, there's got to be a reason you're seeing white space. So I don't really understand why you would even have the question, right? Like, you must see the marketing angle. That's why you're developing the product, in my mind. I don't know.
Right. I don't even know how to respond to this person, except that I know we as a team are incredible.
I think you've answered how you guys do it.
Right. But I want to say we as a team are very clear on how we communicate, how we create products, what is within our brand and hierarchy.
If you want to stop wasting the most valuable real estate in your business, turn your tracking page into a revenue generator. You spend $50 to acquire a customer, then you send them to a blank tracking page that just tells them where their package is. And this is the most wasted real estate in all of D2C, and you should be monetizing it. We have some stats that show that customers check their tracking page around 3 to 5 times per order. And if you send them tracking updates all the time, they'll check it even more often. They're very engaged and excited at that moment. And you're burning money by not monetizing that attention. So I use Redo to turn my tracking page into a cross-sell machine. I do this at Royo. Some of my co-hosts do it for their brands. This is a layup. Redo recommends products based on what they already bought. So stop sending your traffic to dead ends. Anytime you send somebody a link and you want them to click, you should be giving them an opportunity to buy something after they click. If you want to start monetizing your order tracking page, head over to getredo.com to see how they can help you. Let them know we sent you. I consult across 10 e-commerce brands totaling around $250 million a year in revenue. And if I had to build one of them from scratch without spending $1 on paid ads, here's exactly where I would start. All right, guys, you guys are in for a treat because one of our partners for this season, Social Snowball, is just letting me have free reign. So I'm going to do like a little mini series inside the podcast where I talk about how I'd go from 0 to 50K per day using no paid ads, just only using affiliates. So let's get into that. So at day 0, you have a problem. You have no customers to turn into affiliates. You have just nobody, right? So I would launch this strategy entirely on TikTok Shop, but TikTok Shop has hard limits on how many creators you can seed. So it locks you into small creators only, and it doesn't let you reach out to very many creators. So what gives, TikTok? I want to launch on your platform. You won't let me talk to big creators, and you won't let me talk to very many creators. So there's a workaround. I use Social Snowball to do mass discovery, outreach to larger creators via email. They check their email, so you will be able to work with them. And there's no limits here, so you can launch faster, launch more, and launch bigger. Social Snowball auto-enrolls them directly into my TikTok Shop affiliate program. That way, I can bypass TikTok's restrictions, build a bigger, better commission-only sales force from day one, and have a lot of people posting me on TikTok Shop. So that's where I'm going to get my initial traction with this kind of 0 to 1K per day stage. So my actual D2C site is not going to get very many sales here because most people are going to buy on TikTok Shop. But I'm going to have that there, and it's going to exist in the background for halo effect. A lot of people are going to see the product on TikTok Shop. They're going to go Google it. They're going to buy through the site. Social Snowball manages affiliate links, payouts across both channels seamlessly, site and TikTok Shop. If you're not already running an affiliate program, you should be. And you should be using Social Snowball from day one. So head over to socialsnowball.io and tell them we sent you. All right, back to the show. Maybe a more helpful question would be, how early in the process do you think marketing team members that are going to be crafting the messaging around products, how early in the product development process do you think they should be involved? Do you think they should be involved in even concepting and deciding what gets made?
I'm not sure I want to answer that, but I do want to answer it another way.
Yeah.
I want to say that I think communication about what is happening in terms of product development, how it's progressing, what the product strategies are, should be, something that's communicated across organizationally, because it helps thought, it helps marketing, obviously, and it helps, I think, overall buy-in and support, and it should be part of the culture.
Okay, can we pull on another one of your threads?
Yes, I might run out at some point.
That's okay. I don't think so. You got a stack there. Yeah, what's this?
So the next one is aspirational identity, or who you become. And I think that's another bucket. And it's a bucket with our consumer, because it's we tap into feeling and identity, and not just the shoe or the product.
Right.
So that's about, and I referenced the Techlone Pro, but it's about our aspirational consumer is one of our consumers that really identifies with our brand, and they're confident, they're effortless, they feel in control. They're a high performance individual, but refined. So it's kind of for those who move with purpose and move throughout the day. So I feel like that's aspirational identity, because they, when they're in our product, people recognize they recognize who they are, and people in the outside recognize who they are.
Can you give me maybe an example of a piece of content, or it could be a real piece of content, or it could be, I guess, a theoretical piece of content. What a piece of content would look like if you're like, this is the main thread we're pulling on, is this sort of aspirational identity?
I think you see it with our photography. You see it on our social media. You see that person who is moving throughout their day. And to your point, it's in many ways in an effortless way, because we're enabling them to be effortless and transition throughout their day.
You know what I'm noticing about some of your threads, or about your threads, is that this is a real-time observation. Some of them you could say, like, this is a piece of content will tell this story, or will say that will be one of these, right? So this is a category of like a piece of content we would put out. So like a social proof validation, that's a piece of content that you would put out, or an origin story that might be a piece of content you would put out. And then some of them, like this one, aspirational identity, is like, this isn't any individual piece of content we would put out. This is in all of them.
I would agree with that, and I think you see it in the way we shoot our product,
Right.
the way you see how we portray, you know, uh, performance and individuals working out in our product, the way that's portrayed in our social media. It's you can identify with it. You just feel comfortable. It feels warm.
Hmm.
And I think one of the things about our brand is it's aspirational, but you can easily identify with it, and it moves through life with you. And that is a thread through everything.
Yes. Yeah. That's like a good example of one that is like not any one individual piece of content, but this will be in everything we do.
Right.
So some of
It's
these
visually portrayed.
Yes.
It's in the words that we use, and we're very careful.
So if I were to try and put what you're saying into a framework so far, is there's almost like really what you're giving is we're talking about storytelling, but this is just a masterclass in branding, right? And building like a brand and a brand identity. Right?
But thank you to our whole team. It's a
Right.
team effort. I really want to say that.
And I think a good framework, if somebody were like take it away, and I'm going to say, like brand is one of those very ethereal things, and oftentimes people who have smaller businesses are like, okay, but I need to know how to sell product, right? And I'm like, if I'm going to take it away and say like let me make this very practical, you could almost create sort of a T chart, right? And you could kind of say on one side of our brand are types of content we will put out. So celebrations, origin stories, validation, like social proof and validation. So these are just different types of content we will put out into the world. And then on the other side of this T chart is things that will be in everything. Like nothing will ever not have this, or maybe a better way to say it is nothing will ever have the opposite of this, right? So if aspirational identity is one of them, nothing will ever have like very practical identity, right? Like we will never lean into non-aspirational identity or whatever the opposite of aspirational identity would be as we see it, right?
Right.
So everything will have these, or even if it's not front and center, it definitely won't have whatever the opposite is, right? So on one side of the T chart is like, here's the type of content. On the other side of the T chart is like, here's how we say like what the vibes are, right?
Right. And you know what I think the other thing is, and to this listener, it's ingrained in all of us and the entire team, and we're very clear about that.
Yeah.
And we know that, and it's something that develops over time as you grow a business, and the whole team has a lot of clarity on that.
Yeah.
And that's important. So I don't know what's going on at their company, but I think if people are, and storytelling is like on everyone's talking about it now. But if you sit back at any company and look at these things, you could probably identify what those buckets are, or some of those buckets at whatever brand it is. And
Yeah.
if you can't, that means you really need to sit down and start identifying those buckets or developing them. It's an opportunity. It's not a negative.
Right. Yeah.
And it's something where you could have so much fun and embrace all of that.
One more thing. If you're running an e-commerce brand right now, doing somewhere between 1 million and 10 million, and you're stuck on something specific, whether it's your margins or your ad spend, your team structure, whatever it is, I do a limited number of consulting calls. It's just you and me going through your numbers and figuring out what to fix. There's a link in the description if you want to see if it's a fit. How do you guys think about because a lot of it seems that what you're thinking about is, the story of the brand. It's very brand level, right? To that person that I know is sitting here watching this screaming like, yeah, okay, but make me sales. Like what would you have to say to that?
Why is this not making sales? Why are you saying that? I mean, that has everything to do with the image, the equity, and the understanding of the brand, and the consistency of luxury performance and where we sit in the marketplace.
The observation I have here is that, like, you know, if somebody were to ask me that about APL and they're saying like, well, how does that translate into sales for them? How much do they invest in, you know, stuff that is kind of top of funnel brand, and how does that, you know, translate into sales for them? I would say APL, from my observation, never doesn't have the brand, right? Like none of it is like not brand. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, if you look at us, and again, this is that thread I'm talking about, which everyone needs to look at their brand. There is brand consistency through everything we do. So you're 100% correct.
And I think especially if you're going to try and compete in luxury, that is like that's the only way to compete in luxury. Everything, like there's brand thread in everything. Right.
But it's not just luxury, it's also performance.
Yeah, even an email announcing a sale, which is a very direct response type of email, right? Like, hey, you know, sale or new product drop or whatever, right? It's very much like a go get it. There's still story, there's still brand weaved into that. Like, it's still always going to be aspirational. It's still always going to be those things. And so I think if you're going to compete in luxury, that is what it is. Like, you're never just trying to go like straight, you know, the only purpose of this message is to sell things, right?
Yeah. I mean, again, it's about we're communicating the brand. We're telling a story. We're saying why we created a product, why we're dropping something, why things are happening. I mean, we're really doing that with everything we do.
Yeah.
And I think we do that very effortlessly. And that's another thing. Our tone in many ways feels very effortless. It's high performance without friction. It's luxury feel without effort. So
everything is going to say that, right? Like a customer
maybe
will never
subliminally also.
Yeah, I mean, look, they
There's
might receive a sale.
visual
It's Black Friday. Then the main message of it's Black Friday is it's Black Friday. But there's always visual cues. There's it always is going to say, even the most direct response message you send out is always going to say that, right? Like, it's always going to at least subtly say what the brand is. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But also I think it's, visually, we're just an absolutely stunning brand visually, and in our, all of our creative, without a lot of words, tells a story.
Yeah. Can we pull another thread?
Yeah, we might be getting to the end of the threads.
Nice.
I think we talked about
this one says effortless
performance, which I think is sort of our sweet spot in many ways. I mean, like I said, high performance without friction, luxury without effort, and that our imagery captures all of that. And so it translates into, I think, feeling at ease with us. You get to feel at ease, and that's a feeling of luxury, but it's also conveys performance. So it's performance that kind of disappears into your life.
Yeah. Yeah, that basically blends in.
Right, because that's what you want.
So I do actually have some insight on this brand and this person's question. And I thought it was maybe most relevant for this episode. I've been sitting on it for a while.
Oh, boy.
What they asked, and I'm going to reword it a bit. What they asked was, how do you open up to a new market? So this brand, to give you some background, they are also a sports brand. They're not a competitor of yours. They're a sports brand, sports apparel, right? And they have gotten very big in one sport, and they are kind of looking at it and saying, we think if we want to continue to grow this company, probably what we need to do is we need to launch into another sport.
Right.
And the reason I thought it would be good for you is because men's basketball and women's running are not like super adjacent, or men's basketball and running, I guess, just generally are not like super adjacent. And I guess maybe I'm making an assumption there that if you looked at running shoe demographics of your buyers, that it's more women than men. And that might not be the case. So I don't want to say that if that's not the case, but basically I'm saying they're not adjacent. And this person's even thinking about making an adjacent jump. Like a lot of people who play this sport also play this sport, right?
Right.
Because a lot more like middle school, high school kids wear their stuff, right? So
Right.
it's a little bit different than you guys, right? But like, yeah, there's a lot of transferability, which I'm like, I think it'll be fine. But that's their main question. And I am rewording it and like I've talked to them, so I have context. So I'm giving you the context. But I just want to walk through that. Like, you guys are in men's basketball or you're in basketball. Why running? Why'd you choose that? And talk about like, what you guys needed to do as a team to basically make that transfer. Or to also launch in running because you're still in basketball.
Well, I'm going to answer their question. I mean, why running was easy. I mean, we're all athletic. We all have active lives. Running was a part of everybody's life. We were passionate about it. I mean, again, I think we're
so
also
inside the brand, you guys had some running DNA in the brand.
Well, I mean, I think almost everybody in our team probably runs.
Got it.
Everybody trains. Everybody lives very, very active lives. I don't want to speak for everybody. I mean, I know Adam, Ryan, Mark all run. I run 1 to 2 miles almost every day. Everybody trains. So that is the impetus. It came out of authenticity. So I would say to them, what's their next authentic passion?
I think that's a good point. And this is why I said, like, I don't want to blow up their spot. So I'm
not going to.
I'm gonna say different sports than the ones that they're in, but then that might give it away. Let's just say
I have a guess.
You have a guess of who it is. Yeah. Why don't we say your guess, and then whatever you say, we'll pretend that was correct. Go ahead.
I think it's someone with women's basketball.
Okay. All right. So let's say,
but I could be wrong.
Let's say that
they're in athletic apparel.
So they specifically, it's more like middle school and high school kids, and they're in apparel. Yes. So let's say it is basketball that they're in, right? I think that from what you just said, like, because their demo is more like, I guess they're selling to the parents, but the children, obviously they're not like the people at the brand are, but the people at the brand probably have the kids. I think the best move is to just be like, well, what's already in your brand's DNA? If your brand has, your co-founding team has, kids who play basketball, like what else do they play? Just go into that sport. You know what I mean? Like, did they also play baseball? Then maybe just go into baseball.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's rocket science.
We don't have to overcomplicate it. Yeah.
We don't have to They're just worried. I don't know.
Why don't you do what you know? Yeah.
Exactly. And look, we had a lot of expertise,
yeah,
and technical expertise when we started the brand.
Right.
And so we were able to do these things.
It may be harder to, like, certain sports might, if you have technical products in certain sports, it might, that technical knowledge of that sport might have less transferability to certain other sports, is what you're saying.
Right. But they also, obviously, I mean, these are simple things, but, how big is the category? What is their, how hard is it going to be to enter that particular category? How much is it going to cost them? I mean, all the basic questions, they're going to have to do that. Is the category they're in now, was that easier to enter than this one, that the other ones they're thinking about?
Right.
But also, if they should pick something they are somewhat knowledgeable about, hopefully.
Yeah. I think that's probably a good place to start, actually, is to just say, yeah, I used to be in a band, and like sometimes we'd like mess around with, trying some new song or trying when you're writing, like the writing process is very messy. And we would have this phrase where we'd like get down rabbit holes on stuff like that. And we'd be like, why don't we just play one we know?
Right.
Like, let's just play a song that we all know and like reset. Right. And like, let's start with just like something we know. And so I think that's probably the thing here is like, I know they're more in the kids category. Probably it's just like, well, what other sports do those kids play? Like, maybe go into that, unless there's
basketball, baseball. Do they have more male athletes
Yeah,
or
if you
more
got more,
female
if you got more
athletes.
boys, maybe you go football. Yeah,
Right. I don't know the answer to that, but I
right.
could probably do a little chart for them.
Yeah. The chart would have here are all the sports that exist. You could choose any of them.
And you could do the chart too.
Yeah. You tennis, you got tennis.
Oh wait, if they've got SMS, maybe they ask.
That's true. Survey, see what other sports the kids
could
play.
Play.
Yeah.
What would they if people are buying from them now? Where would they like them to expand? Why don't we use
Send a survey.
the tools at our disposal?
Yeah, send a survey.
Instead of guessing.
Another attentive shout. This is going to be 2 episodes in a row that got an attentive shout out.
I know.
Not in the ad read. Attentive is a sponsor.
Right.
But yeah, use Attentive, get your surveys out there, and it really very simple. Like, what other sports do your kids play? If we were going to launch in another sport, launch some line in another sport, what would it be? And I know that there's more like cultural apparel around the sport.
Right.
So it's great because it's like you don't need technical knowledge then, right? Because you're creating cultural apparel around the sport, right? And I think just survey and then you go, then you know at least whatever you roll out.
Why didn't we think of that right at the beginning?
Yeah, I know. We talked about this for too long. That was the answer.
That was crazy.
Yeah, then at least whatever you roll out will have a base of people who buy up some of it, and you won't be like sitting on inventory or whatever.
Oh wait, and you might have a list.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for sure. And then I don't know. I'm a big fan. I don't know if you guys. I know you guys are big on community. I'm a big fan of like community. If you have some sort of community that lives somewhere, like a Facebook group or whatever, post some stuff in there. Like post some design ideas in there and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would do that. I mean, it can't hurt.
Do we have another thread?
I think we talked about it. Just launch stories and having a launch story and really crafting that is really important when you're doing new product introductions, and that's just something to be very thoughtful about, and how you do it, and how you release it, and how you stand out. But I think for me to summarize is what we do really well. So I thought about this is we use minimal words. Everything is high impact in terms of creative design, anything visual, the combination of performance and luxury, and how we bring that all together seamlessly. Our effortless tone with voice. It's not like we never try hard. We're just very effortless. And we let our community, like we were talking about, speak for us in many ways through social and so many other things. I mean, that's an endorsement in itself. It spreads the word. And, I'm summing it up with that also editorial and third-party validation. So there's so many threads through everything we do, and we're consistent.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you for coming on the show. I think this was very good. I think this was a very different episode.
This was different for me too.
It's good. It's usually a very tactical thing, but so often what happens is brands scale, and then they become scale limited by the fact that they don't have a brand. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Like they run meta ads and they run UGC that works, right? Or they run, TikTok and they're on TikTok Shop and they find some good marketing tactics that work to get to a point. But what they don't have is just like a brand, a community, a passionate fan base. And a lot of those brands have some form of the question of how do I do that? And the answer isn't incredibly clean like it was when you ran Facebook ads. You know what I mean?
Right.
The answer isn't super clean like it was when you launched on TikTok Shop and I recruited a bunch of affiliates and we could give you a step-by-step guide. So I think that this episode did a good job of sort of breaking that down as much as we can.
As much as we can. And the answer
there's some subjective and there's some feeling you have to do, right?
Absolutely. And at the end of our day, consumers, or when you say APL, everybody says, I love APL. Yeah. And there's the proof.
Yeah. Amazing. Do you want to say, obviously people can go buy shoes.
Yes, at athleticpropulsionlabs.com.
If there's anything else you want to...
And we have 2 flagship stores, one in the Grove and one in Soho at 75 Prince Street. And you can be part of the APL family.
Yeah, and if you want to connect with you on LinkedIn, would that be the place if somebody has a question? They watch this episode, they have a follow-up question.
Absolutely.
amazing. Connect with NJ on LinkedIn. Subscribe to the channel. If you liked this episode, the way that I know what content you guys like is what gets the most subscribers. So subscribe.